Too little, too late. I have to say that the whole thing between Shadiq and Miorine is pretty interesting. I really do like the dynamic they have going on between the two of them, and it's interesting in the idea that I really do believe that Miorine knows that Shadiq likes her. And I do honestly believe, at least by the end for sure, but I do believe somewhere in there, Miorine knew that Shadiq was sort of like her. I believe they did find some sort of common ground between the two of them. They both don't like their parents. They both don't like the vision that their parents have for them. And they're both striving for their own thing. And again, Shadiq was always sort of supporting Miorine, but the problem with Shadiq is that Shadiq essentially let Miorine go. Shadiq allowed Miorine to suffer with what she was going through, despite the fact that, as we see in this flashback, it looks like he wants to support her. He sees that she's going through problems. He lets her get involved, essentially. He knows exactly what's happening, and he let her get involved. This whole thing about him allowing Duel to take care of her, I trusted you with her, that wasn't the case. You let her get involved with a bunch of stuff, and you could have easily stepped in and sort of changed things for her. But no, he allowed her to get mixed up with everything. He didn't get involved. He didn't intervene. And that's obviously, in the end, why he failed. But again, that's why I like them. I like Shadiq. I'm shipping Shadiq and Miorine right now. Like, I'm totally shipping that whole thing. I know the idea around the entire The Witch from Mercury is that, oh my gosh, Suetta and Miorine thing is happening. I doubt Suetta and Miorine is ever going to get together. I think it's cute, and I totally would be fine with it, but these two don't seem romantic. Suetta and Miorine are strictly just friends, and there's no romance there. It feels like a romance with Shadiq. I don't know. Now, the opposite is that I don't think Miorine really has that much romance with Shadiq. I think she understands by the end of this episode for sure that Shadiq liked her, and there might be something there, but at least from Shadiq's perspective, dude sold on her. Dude obviously really likes Miorine and wanted to help her, but again, failed to intervene. But anyways, episode 9 of The Witch from Mercury was really fantastic. Really did enjoy it. Hype levels off the chart at the end. And yes, I seen it. Prospera crying. We all know what's going on there. But again, I think every single episode, they're going to give us a taste of the whole Ariel theory. Like every single episode, there will be some little nugget in there. The last episode was that they finally clarified the time difference between the prologue and now. And now with this episode, obviously Prospera crying the moment that Ariel wakes up. My daughters are together and they're having fun. She's happy. My daughter woke up, basically. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yes, opening up this episode, we have this whole time jump backwards. This is a point in which we first had Duel was still dueling like crazy. And yes, Shadiq goes to Miorine to talk to her. It was interesting that before they cut this scene, we get a brief shot of Shadiq's underlings, and they were mentioning the idea that Shadiq is always cautious around Miorine. Like, from their vantage point, he's afraid of her. And that would make sense in the idea that, yes, obviously she is the daughter of the president, so obviously he's going to be careful around her, but I think it was more of an idea that he's careful about what he does around her because obviously, again, he likes her. But no, he was pointing out the fact that, yes, she's tried to escape again, and she's obviously failed. But then again, getting into that whole aspect that Miorine is frustrated at that time. This is the point in which she just gets the decisions made around her about her marriage and where her future is, all based on these stupid duels, that she's some product of a company. And again, right here, he states, I'm different. Well, she likes that. She's happy that he stated that. I'm not like the others. I don't see you as property. And again, he had the opportunity here. Like they have a connection, but again, he doesn't intervene. Shadiq's going to be continuously a product of not intervening and thus never getting involved with her and thus never saving her. But to give Shadiq a little bit of favor here, yes, technically Miorine does clearly state, I don't want to marry anybody in the company, which basically says Shadiq not going to happen. But now this cuts us to the meeting between Gundam and Shadiq. Obviously the fact that they create this new rule, thus making it to where they can't form an actual company. Yeah, Miorine asked the great question, did you change the rules? Oh, would that change anything though? But yes, that turns into them dueling. Shadiq tries to stop her too. He's like, don't do it. And she's like, no, I'm going to challenge you to a duel, which obviously turns into, if we win, you change the rules back, we get our company. If we lose, yes, Shadiq gets all of Gundam and everything. Which makes you kind of curious, the idea that duels between what is essentially a student council president and a classmate can essentially dictate the rules of the entire school, which doesn't make any sense. But everything's decided by duels at this point, right? It's just, if you ever want to change anything in the school, you have to duel the student council president, and that makes the entire school change because they can dictate everything, apparently, not the principal. But it was cool because the other thing they kind of got out of this whole situation, this entire episode, was that, yes, she dictated that she wanted the entire thing broadcasted, which looks really good if you have your one Gundam defeats all the other branches, or defeats Shaddiq, who, again, like I mentioned in the last episode, was seen as the most strongest person in the entire school. When you look at the betting boards, Shaddiq was the highest. Of course, he never dueled, but everybody feared him. But yeah, the weird thing that came out of this whole duel proclamation is, out of nowhere, one of Shaddiq's girls walks up and says, Shaddiq, I want you to be involved too, because it's actually a 6 group, 6 versus 6, which was out of nowhere. But we're like, why does this girl hate Shaddiq? Like, what did Shaddiq do? And then it dawned on me, what happened in the previous I don't know if it was the 8th episode or the 7th episode, but at some point, Shaddiq was getting her fortune told. And in that fortune, what was it? You're going to have problems with men in the future. I wonder if this is it. Because, yes, we find out that it was because she was getting involved, Shaddiq was getting involved with her 12th choice in the school for boyfriends. And she's like, well, it's your 12th. Why would that matter? It's still one of my men, basically. And she's like, but I turned him down. Like, he wanted lunch and she turned him down. And that's enough that she wanted the duel. And I'm like, oh, there you go. There's your problem with men, I guess. Poor Shaddiq. We did get a brief scene of Nika and Shaddiq once again. Didn't get really much at all from this scene at all, but it is, again, playing into our previous scene that we've seen the two of them together, where he was thanking her, obviously, for information. But this kind of clarifies at the same time, whereas Nika's telling him, you're really cruel. Everybody was really excited about this new company. Everybody was on board finally, where we're all getting jazzed up. Everybody was motivated, and you shut it all down. Why would you do that? Now, here's the weird part, because he says, don't get involved. It doesn't concern an in-between. So again, this is an in-between, somebody that is giving information between these two groups, Shaddiq's group and Gundam. But the weird thing is that after he has this outburst, she's kind of like, okay. And then he walks by her and says, sorry, I'll try to talk more. Kind of indicating that, yes, these two have had a history, and he's trying to fix his outbursts and saying that, look, I'll communicate more with you. I'll give you more information. Like, I'll be more clear with you. Again, it kind of gives this insinuation that he's not controlling Nika. That's the main thing that I'm getting from this one phrase. It's sort of indicating that he's not controlling Nika, but that there's a mutual benefit between the two of them. Otherwise, why would he apologize and want to give her more information? But who knows? Maybe if things don't work out between Shaddiq and Miorine, there's always Nika. But I just don't want Nika to get involved with anything. I just want her to be happy and hide away somewhere. So yeah, the duel's all set and everything. Currently, everybody's trying to find more pilots, because they only had Choo-Choo and Suetta, and Shaddiq was going to join in. And so they're looking for the people. Suetta randomly bumps into Duel. He's still out in the middle of the park. And so she's like, hey, can you help us? And he's like, no, my father already told me that I'm not supposed to get involved. I'm not allowed to duel anymore. And Suetta sort of connects with him a little bit in the idea of like, oh, well, if my mother told me that, I would probably listen to her too. I love my mother. You must love your father. He didn't really reply to it. And then she goes marching off saying, support, support, support. I got Golden Boy vibes. Study, study. But no, later on, we do get another shot of Duel, and he's getting a phone. I don't know why his father is phoning him up like halfway through this very important duel, but apparently his father doesn't care about this duel between, Gundam and Shaddiq's group. I mean, it's kind of important, but anyways, he calls up his son and says, hey, I got the plans ready for your withdrawal. You're getting out of there. I thought at this point he was immediately going to run over and start supporting Suetta, but apparently Duel is going to get withdrawn from the school. We'll see how that turns out. I think if anybody, Duel can relate to Miorine. If anybody in this entire show. That was an interesting scene between Shaddiq and Miorine just before the duel as well, and the idea that he tries to finally push her. Look, the game's over. Just give up. Don't have this duel. Just give up the company. You don't care about Gundams that much. I know you don't care about this stuff. Why are you doing this? And Miorine just says, look, your words don't sit with me well. You said that when you take over the company, you specifically said that I would remain president. You want me to be there as a symbol, as a trophy, to protect your company from everybody else. Because I'm in the company as the president, you think that that's going to protect you from all the other companies. You're using me. That was like a big, nasty fail by Shaddiq right there. Like, again, he acts like he cares about Miorine, but at the same time, he still uses her. He's still using her. Now, you can argue that that was a misstep in the idea that he just wanted to let her stay in that company. Like, you wanted that, you bought that, you want to stay there. But if you think that she doesn't care about the Gundams, yet at the same time you're making an agreement that puts her in a position that's high, you're speaking two different words to her. You're just like my father. Can't trust you. And then, yes, Shaddiq, being a little defeated by this conversation, passes by Suetta and says, you need to talk to your wife. You need to talk some sense into your wife. If you're a good groom, you'll help your wife and tell her to stop this whole nonsense. Which, yes, Suetta's like, well, if I'm her groom, then I'm going to trust my bride. Then all cuts to, yes, the big duel. The big day of the duel. Again, 6 versus 6. Somehow they managed to get 6 total pilots from the gun to arm side of things. Just basically Choo-Choo, Suetta, and then 4 random mechanics and stuff. So I don't know why Miorine didn't join in. I guess she's not technically a pilot, but she's well versed around the entire field. Gotta be more versed than I would think a mechanic, but still. I guess mechanics know the ins and outs of a machine because they technically work on it. This is funny because it went out of their way to kind of point out the fact that, yes, Bell helped them out by getting them some mobile suits because they didn't have enough, but they couldn't give them the FedAct. And I'm like, that's actually a good thing, because the entire time I'm thinking about this, because when they first announced, when they were first talking about this, they're like, well, we can get the FedAct. And I'm like, but the FedAct is still dangerous. It's not aerial. It is essentially a fake Gundam. It is a Gundam. It is one of the old Gundams, essentially. It's basically Bell mimicked the witches by making it. And as we've seen with Ellen, the clone, he was still being affected by the data streams. So this is an older style, the ones that actually kill the pilot. So they wouldn't want to have that in the battle. And even if they could get the suit, and they found a pilot that would be willing to actually pilot it, the danger still comes in the fact that they wanted to broadcast this global or galaxy-wide. If they had a pilot inside of FedAct and he was being destroyed by the FedAct, it wouldn't look good upon them. So it's like, did anybody think about this? I was surprised they didn't actually discuss this. Like, we could have got the FedAct, but we don't want it. We can't take it. Unless Choo-Choo has a sister they decided to shove inside of it. Who knows? But yeah, fight starts. Shaddiq immediately goes to Choo-Choo because obviously Choo-Choo is the only one that's a threat besides Suetta. And fights break out. They destroy most of the mechanics and get them out of the way really quickly. And yes, it all comes down to Suetta. And to shock to nobody, they happen to have the gun arm suspending stuff, and they shoot that stuff off, and it knocks out Suetta's suit, forcing her to sort of pilot by herself without the help of Ariel. And the entire time, Suetta's talking to Ariel, like, oh, you're mad at me. I'm sorry. I'll try to do this myself. And then eventually, yes, Ariel wakes up. The two of them start going ballistic crazy, destroying everybody. And yes, Prospera crying because, again, it's obviously Prospera's happy to see her. Again, it goes back to that whole thing of how much connection does she have to Suetta? Is she crying because Ariel is awake? Is she crying because Ariel is having fun with Suetta? I mean, Suetta's having a blast. She's just dancing around. Her and Ariel just destroying everything. They're working together. And yes, that emotion kicks up in Prospera. But again, how much of that is the two of them or just the one of them? Or, yes, all 12 of them. All 12 of them, I guess. Or 13, technically. But it was cool that despite the fact that she wasn't able to take down Shaddiq by herself, like in the end, she's done. Like Ariel's not doing good. And then Shaddiq's about to finish her off. I love the fact that the last shot was Choo-Choo. Got a snipe shot right at the very end, which is surprising because I guess that they knocked her out but didn't completely knock off an antenna so that she was still able to work. Yes, and it all ends with Ariel coming out of her cockpit and doing this stupid Ariel dance. Stupid corny dance. Ariel. Which worked, like I said, great publicity stunt. But yeah, they open their company. Shaddiq finally gives up. Yeah, and then Miorine says, too little, too late. Like, you didn't do enough to help me. It was interesting, though, because the way that she said it, the way that Miorine said it was that, in the end, still, you fought alone. When you fought against Suetta, you fought alone. You weren't with your party. And so how can you have me trust you when you don't even trust your own allies? Shaddiq doesn't realize how selfish he is in the end. And hopefully this is a big rude awakening for him. But anyhow, great episode overall. But now, the question mark is, we finally revealed the last of the cast. Like, Shaddiq was the last one to get involved with an actual story. We've gone through Ellen, we've gone through Duel, we've gone through Shaddiq now. All the main cast have been involved with the overall story. So I'm curious now that we've gotten Shaddiq out of the way, what's next? Like where are we going next with this whole story? Like, who are we going to get into next? That's going to be the big question mark. So kind of excited for the next episode, honestly. And now the next episode could just be a lot of dust selling, but I think we're going to start diving into the next big arc coming up. again, we've gotten a taste of all the companies. We've gotten a taste of all the children of the companies. What's next? Honestly, I would imagine next episode is going to be a lot of phone calls to Gundam. A lot of companies calling up and saying, well, I want one of these Gundams. When can I start buying them? But again, they can't mass produce yet. Keep that in mind. Prospera said that already. You have to study this thing. We don't know how it works. She knows how it works. We all know that Prospera knows exactly how this machine works. She's the one that perfected what the witches created. The witches created the Gundam suit, and it was killing the pilots. Prospera figured out how to perfect it by, again, our theory, implanting Eri into it. But we'll see. That's my thoughts on episode 9 of The Witch of Mercury. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. If you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. We also have a membership that you can join to get my undying gratitude, as well as some cute little speed chant emotes. But I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.